The base is dropped on Soccer Down here for April 2nd. It's a Tuesday Thoughts edition of the show. We'll be getting into your thoughts on the first month of Major League Soccer season. We'll look at USL Championship and USL League One as well. League One kicked off over the weekend. Championship is into a few weeks of the season, and the NWSL gets started in a couple of weeks. We'll kind of look around the pro soccer landscape in the United States today. We'll also be taking your thoughts on Atlanta United. Had our overreaction Monday yesterday, and there were some overreactions. There's some on-par reactions as well. I mean, it's it's not even a joke. I mean, there's all kinds of reactions right now. I'm not laughing at it
being a joke. I know that there were some folks who took it in stride, and I just find it funny when you say on-par reaction because
no, there absolutely were. I mean, there should be questions right now.
Yeah,
there should absolutely be questions right now.
Nope. Not disputing.
The thing that I thought was funny was just how bent out of shape people were about the weather conversation. And if you want to completely keep it separate, that's fine. But this is something that MLS has to get better at. I mean, there's just no way the second half should have been played. It didn't. If you had come back the next morning and played it, then maybe it's something different. Who knows? But Columbus had a 2-0 lead, and the weather had nothing to do with it. However, it's just unsafe. I mean, I went back and watched unrelegated Jay Riddle's humorous weather-related highlight video, and God, I didn't remember it being that bad. I mean, yeah, I was cringing at times on some of the potential for injury and just awkwardness. I mean, that's the thing that I think you can probably be the happiest about coming out of that match is that no one was seriously injured. Now, we don't know about Franco Escobar, and we don't know if the field caused his injury. Don't know if we'll ever get an answer to that. But, tackles like the Mikey Ambrose one, other slide tackles where you just keep going and you can't control your body. It's very easy for people to get hurt in that situation, and that was the frustrating thing for me, as well as just the fact you play the second half and there's no stoppage time because you want to get out of there. That's not ridiculous. How you would play any other second half. So that gets into the integrity of the match, all that. All that being said, none of that had anything to do with the 2 goals Columbus scored. And they're 2 separate parallel paths and 2 separate conversations. I think people are very wary of excuses right now, which is understandable. But there is a difference between explanation. There is a difference between talking about things that went into a match and making excuses. So I just hope we can keep all that separate because we have to talk about what's going right, what's going wrong, and what needs to change. And I don't want every time that conversation comes up for it to be, it's an excuse that this went wrong or this needed to change or this wasn't right. No, sometimes it's just that's part of the conversation. So we'll get into more Atlanta United talk as we go as well because we know that's a big topic of the day and week, and you don't have a match this week. So it's going to be an interesting, look for me to see how that conversation goes over the week and then looking ahead to next weekend where the Twos play, and I would expect to see a few first-team players in the mix for the Twos this weekend, and the first team does not. Their opponent plays New England. They play Columbus. So you don't really get too much of a basis for comparison because I don't think they're going to turn the stadium into a slip and slide. But you will see New England play an opponent that Atlanta just played, and you can have a little bit of comparison, at least from the first 30, 40 minutes. New England, I went back and watched the highlights. I haven't watched the whole match yet from Minnesota. A lot of changes to the lineup. Effort was better. But it was very frantic and very just strange. Two defenders get the goals for New England. It was a weird match. I don't know how much to really take out of it. Shiva's question is an interesting one, and John, I wanted to get your take on this. So she said, I know we all want a win at the New England match, but if you think about it logically, yes, we've had time to practice tactics by then, but our team has not played a competitive match since Philadelphia and maybe 30 minutes in Columbus. I wonder if we will see the match rhythm with the guys, even with the 2-week rest yet. From a quick glance at the highlights from the New England match, they had zero rhythm. It was all just transition, play long, run, chase, fight. So I don't know the way that New England wants to play, if that's going to be as big of a concern in this match.
In watching that match this past weekend, their approach just seemed, I mean, scattershot is the word that comes to mind. And I'm still, New England to me is still trying to figure out what they have, who they are, and what they're going to do. And they're trying to find that one moment where they can get something done. And I'm legitimately surprised when they actually do get a goal on the board. I mean, honestly, I had to walk away from Office HD for about 3 minutes while I was watching the match. I turn around, I come back, and there's a goal on the board. And I go, how did that happen? And I think that's been a question really for me about New England for the entire season. And I don't see them fixing it anytime soon, but that's just me looking at probably a small sample size of what I've seen with the Revs so far this year. It seems out of sync. It seems out of sorts. It seems like they're trying to still figure things out, whatever that thing is that they're trying to figure out. And for me, it's just that it's an opportunity. And I don't think that things will improve all that much for them this weekend as they play Columbus.
Well, the thing I would say, I mean, that was pretty negative coming off of a 2-1 win with their backs against the wall. Hey, Brad Friedel said that they didn't have the effort in the match beforehand, and they had that in this one. I will give them
6
that.
lineup changes.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. You dropped your goalkeeper, and I don't know what's going on at goalkeeper for them. And Friedel, as a former goalkeeper, it's really strange to see last year Matt Turner was being talked about as a potential national team goalkeeper. He won the job. Knighton had been there for a while. He didn't get it. Cropper had come in the year before. He didn't get it. Then they started rotating as the year went on. Now this year it's back to Knighton. Turner was the number 2 here, but Knighton was out of the 18 for the weekend, and Cropper was in goal.
Yep.
That's strange. Christian Penilla was left out of the 18 completely. And you saw those 6 lineup changes. You saw DeJuan Jones in the match. You saw Juan Agudelo get a start. Backline, Michael Mancian, a couple times again, just did not look like the highest paid defender in this league.
No.
I think they really struggled defensively. And I think back to last year at Gillette, and that was a match that Atlanta desperately needed the second goal to put that game away. And they didn't. They're going to have to find the second, the third, the fourth goal in this one. You need to put this game away at all costs. Because New England right now is in a bit of a similar situation as Atlanta. And we'll see what comes out of the Columbus match. There could be some differences to this going into the 13th. But their backs are against the wall. I mean, people are questioning Brad Friedel in some pretty strong ways right now. And he got a response out of his group in this one. He's got a very talented player in Carlos Gil. Man of the match performance on the weekend. He's pulling all the strings. When you have that, you're going to be dangerous. You got goals out of unlikely sources over the weekend, but you have talent. Teal Bunbury is a very good player in this league. Juan Agudelo is a special player when he's on. Brandon Bai is one of those projects who I think can come good as a right back who can get forward and be dangerous. Edgar Castillo as a left back was one of the best left backs in the league last year in Colorado. They have some talent. That's why their results have been such a surprise. And that's why the game on the 13th, I think, is really awkward. Not as much for Shiva's concern about Atlanta won't be in match rhythm. Atlanta will be fresh. I think they've got enough games in them this season to find that rhythm. I thought the rhythm before the field became unplayable looked pretty good on Saturday. Now, when you get Zach Steffen, snuffing out your best 2 chances in that sequence, one before the break, Gressel header, one after the break, the Barco shot. When you get stuffed on those and you concede going the other way, it'll kill you. But the rhythm of the team playing forward was good. Now, how do you eliminate the individual mistakes that hurt you in the Columbus match? How do you make sure you're switched on when you come out? How do you make sure that everything is organized going forward? That's what you're going to be working on these next 2 weeks, the organization side. And then it's down to, I think, the veterans in this team to get this team ready to go at the opening whistle. That's where, maybe Saturday in Columbus, not having a Parkhurst in the lineup, not having a Lorenowitz in the lineup, it's a little different. The normal faces you're looking to, John, are not there. And maybe there was a bit of a vacuum there, and that's why the start was a little flat.
And to your point, usually there's that voice, if it's Big Red or if it's Michael Parkhurst, who's directing traffic on the back line. And not having that voice there to have, Julian coming back to where he's supposed to be and man marking or whatever, points you want to bring up, but just about that first goal, about how someone was wide open at the back post and not having that voice of experience back there, I think, can kind of have you wanting to try to figure out, okay, what would so-and-so do or what would so-and-so tell me in this case, but perhaps not having those voices back there was a contributing factor to the indecision or the wrong decision when it came to the 2 goals.
It's frustrating. And, we're all trying to make sense of it. And I would assume that the players and staff are all trying to make sense of it because that is not what we've generally seen out of this team at any point, is that kind of start. You can fight back, you can scrap and claw, but in that game, knowing where that game was going to go field-wise, or at least having a decent idea of it, it's just the absolute start you can't have. So that can't happen in New England. And Mike Conti went ahead and looked forward at the weather for New England, which
saw this.
Was not good. Not good at all. Cold, rain. At least it's a turf field. So we're not going to have what we had in Columbus, I hope. But yes, cold and rain again. Hopefully it changes.
What is it with you guys?
Hopefully it changes.
It's almost like you guys are the schlep rock of radio teams. It's like that grayness is always there. It's like that rain is following you every place you go.
Okay, for everybody out there who is wondering what schlep rock means, please translate.
And for those of you not quick to the Google machine, that was a Flintstones. Yeah, SCHLEPROCK, all one word. Flintstones reference from the Google machine. Basically, just the guy that had the black cloud over him and always had the bad luck and always had anything negative happening because that black cloud was over you. And so that's where the schlep rock reference comes from.
All right, fair enough. I know people have asked that one before, so I wanted to make sure.
They have?
Yes.
Oh,
people ask about a lot of your references, John. You should know this by now.
We need a Nelson annotated, I think, at the end of every show, or one that shows up in the 8 o'clock hour the day after, so everybody knows what obscure references I make.
Yeah, it's definitely getting there. Some stuff from over the weekend. The Atlanta U19s had a big weekend, 2 wins. Jackson Conway from ATL UTD2 with a couple goals and an assist. Diego Lopez, the 17-year-old forward who was signed last year from California, also got on the board. Big weekend for the 19s. I'm really interested in this match with USL Championship on Saturday, because I think you're going to see your Conways, your Lopez's fighting for time up against your Romario Williams and other first-team players who could use the time. Brandon Vasquez, who had a really rough outing against Charlotte. Does he get another go? Does Lagos Kunga, who's been training after being sick for most of the preseason, does he get some time? There's going to be a lot of competition for playing time on Saturday night.
And I want to see, especially against the team that's number 1 in the power rankings, I want to see what lineup gets trotted out there. And I think it'll be we keep mentioning how Team X is going to be a good test for ATL UTD2 for one reason or another. And for me, coming out of the blocks to see a St. Louis FC team that's up top and everyone is chasing right now, I want to see what a lineup looks like, and I want to see what the approach is to try to knock off the guys at the top of the ladder. I want to see what they look like against top competition.
The conversation's fun. Bartimus Prime says, no, stop giving us a way to make excuses for this team. Keep making excuses, Bart. Have fun with it. It's all good. We'll all make excuses, and it'll be okay. Because I don't know what's an excuse and what's not an excuse anymore with some of the things that have been said. So it's all good. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, y'all. I mean, we talked about it a little bit. Now, before we knew how much the weather would affect Saturday, I was concerned that you just wouldn't see the best of the team yet because of the international break, and then Pity Martinez with an injury and not knowing where guys would be coming back from the break. I had concerns in that regard about Columbus. Outside of Pity being injured, I thought Barco looked good when he could actually play. Carlton looked fine when he came on, when he could actually see. And, all that was okay. Yeah. I thought Miles made one mistake, and it was part of the second goal. But I don't think it had anything to do with playing a bunch with the U23s. So I was worried that the team wouldn't hit its stride until New England anyway. But the problem is now, the season kind of has a mood, and it's hard to put your finger on it sometimes. You have ebbs and flows. You have, ups and downs in it. But right now, you've got a lot of downs in this. I mean, you're at a low ebb. You're at a low tide right now. And you're going into a game that you have 2 home games right after it. I really think that it's vital. It's I don't think any game on April 13th is a true must-win. I mean, true must-win is you lose, you're out of the playoffs, or you lose, your season's over, whatever. This is not that. But this is as close as you can be to that at this stage of the season. It's that important in New England on the 13th.
And apparently it's important for Orlando City to try to make really bad Blair Witch Project videos on April 1st.
It's April Fool's Day. I don't think they fooled anybody with that, which I thought was kind of the idea. But, have at it. They also had some interesting interpretations of rules and not rules and things. And we'll get into that. We'll look around MLS and the action from the weekend. So we really didn't get a chance to talk about it yesterday. We'll look around MLS's last weekend in March and kind of take stock of the first month of the season right after this. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. Tuesday Thoughts edition of the show. Jason Longshore, John Nelson with you this morning. Let's look around the weekend in MLS, and we'll start it, and we'll throw this out there into the ether. Trains, being Trains, says, a quick fact check for all the listeners of Soccer Down here. Atlanta has spent more than any other club ever in MLS and goes into the bye week bottom of MLS. So the rest of MLS got better, or is Atlanta really bad at allocating resources? I guess they got bad at it in, 3 months?
Morning trains.
About 3 months. So, anyway. And I guess everybody else got really good at it in 3 months. Also, Trains went on to say, I know everyone in Atlanta was really preoccupied with Columbus and Atlanta, obviously, but LAFC, Toronto, Sporting Kansas City put on a show. Much better teams to watch. I'm surprised that you wanted to actually give the credit to Toronto, because I remember lots of conversation about Toronto. But anyway, let's start there. Let's start with Toronto. Big win for them over the weekend. Started Friday night against NYC. NYC's got issues. We'll see if their new forward solves them. We really can't draw too many conclusions, I think, until Hebert's into the team. But Alejandro Pozuelo, Toronto tweeted it out afterwards, worth the wait. Yep.
Not bad.
Yep. Definitely worth the wait. Toronto's flying right now. So they look to be for real, and they look to be I think they're a more complete team than DC at the top of the East at the moment. We don't know what Atlanta's going to be right now. We don't know what NYC is going to be right now. I think it's DC and Toronto as the best teams in the East. And can't wait for that matchup, first off. And I want to see how Toronto goes from here. There's talk about adding another player. There's been a few guys rumored. There's a player from Independiente who's been linked to Toronto. We'll see what actually happens, because they've got a pretty good base at the moment. Can they get better from here? We'll have to wait and see. The next one I did not get a chance to see. I was actually listening to some of this on my drive from Kentucky to Columbus. Chicago and the Red Bulls. Chicago gets the 1-0 win. Pretty good read over at MLSsoccer.com from Bobby Warshaw about the Red Bulls and kind of what is going on with Chris Armas' New York Red Bulls right now. It's been an interesting, I think, just glance at this team since Armas took over. And it started last year. There was a lot of kudos given to the Red Bulls for trying to add more possession and patience in the final third. That was the big talking point late last season. Or am I imagining that? Or was that what everybody was like, that's the difference. That's what Chris Armas is bringing to this team.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Now, that's being looked at as a negative because they're not pressing like they used to. They're not creating the chances in transition that they used to, and they're not good enough in possession to make something out of that. Look, I think it's simple. The big difference right now is you don't have Tyler Adams, and you don't have anybody like Tyler Adams. And that was something that I kept waiting for them to address that. You know, the talk at one point was Christian Caceres would be that guy. He hasn't been that guy. I think they've tried to play Sean Davis in that role. He's not suited to that specific role. He was good more as the running buddy, the 8 for that 6 that covers a lot of ground. They don't have anybody who can do what Tyler Adams did. So you can't press the same way. You can't play the same way. It's a lot of the same conversation as Atlanta and Miguel Almiron. When you have a player that is transcendent, when you lose them, it takes time to adjust because you can't do the same things. You can't expect Sean Davis to be Tyler Adams. You can't expect anybody else to be Miguel Almiron. They're not the same player. So the Red Bulls are struggling, and they're dropping some points in games that I don't think they should be dropping points in, even if they're not hitting their stride right now. So what's your take on the Red Bulls at this stage?
All right, so similar to yours, but if we just pull the crests off and put just nebulous vanilla kits on players, considering what we've been talking about this season. In the matchup over the weekend, outshot 11-7, shots on target 1, shots off target 3, 32 crosses to 15, 11 fouls. Total passes, 538 to 308. Passing accuracy, 73%, 64% possession. clearances, 26, 4 saves, 11 tackles, 1 to 9.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you're looking at those numbers for the Red Bulls, like, you're looking at that as that's bad. It's not. That's how they play.
Yeah.
That's how they've played. No. That's what they've done for 5 years. The problem is you don't have anybody when you give up that much possession. You don't have anybody to you don't have anybody to flip the field in that way.
You don't have a catalyst.
No. And when Chicago gives you that much possession, as Atlanta did in the postseason, as Chivas did, and I thought Warsaw did a great job of pointing this stuff out, and this is why it is a weird time for Chris Armas, because Chivas said, we don't want the ball here. They didn't know what to do with it. Atlanta in the postseason said, we don't want the ball here. They didn't know what to do with it. So New York's trying to figure out what to do with it. The problem is Kaku is not doing much with it. Royer, Alex Muil, Bradley Wright Phillips, not really built as those kinds of players. You played Davis and Shatkovsky in the holding midfield in this one. That is more suited to a possession team, but you have to create more than you're creating with this. If you're going to be that possession team, you have to create more. If you're not going to be, I don't know if you have the players to do what you did before, so you're kind of stuck. I mean, they created 3 chances. Tim Parker, Kamar Lawrence, 2 defenders created chances, and Daniel Royer had another key pass. That's it. Nothing from Kaku. No shots. No key passes. I mean, what else did Kaku do? I'm trying to find something that he was
2
involved
corners.
in. He had the most passes. He had the most passes in Chicago's half. Completed them at just over 70%, which isn't all that great. 1 good cross. That's all he gave you. That's not enough. It's just not enough. I don't know what the fix is for the Red Bulls, because you had the whole offseason drama with Kaku. Does he want to be there? Don't know. I don't know if you can truly go back to the way you were playing before, because you don't have the guys to do it. Davis, Shatkovsky, Caceres, those were your central midfielders in this mix. Bezecourt can play in the middle, but he's more of an attacker. You don't really have the players to cover the ground to press in the same way. Can you adjust your press? You could. You could do things a little differently, but it's an interesting dilemma for the Red Bulls about who they are and what they're going to do in 2019. I have some questions. Don't know if they're going to go into the market. Don't know if they're going to go get that player that would give them a Tyler Adams type of player. Not a lot of them out there, to be honest. But they need to do something. They either have to double down on possession and figure things out, and then maybe that adjusts. Maybe Daniel Royer, who's been a great player for this team, maybe he doesn't fit as well as he used to. Alex Muil, same thing. I mean, Alex Muil is a great, hard-working player. Is he a guy that you want on the ball in the final third to break something down? Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what the fix is for the Red Bulls right now.
You look at the box score, player stats. Shots on goal, 0s for Kaku, Muil, Moyer. And then, of course, you bring in Andreas Ivan late for 30 minutes, and he was the sub for Royer. The only shot on goal was registered to Bradley Wright Phillips.
Yep.
Two shots each for Shatkovsky, Davis, Wright Phillips, and then one by Jorgensen, who came in for 19 minutes. But, yeah, your only shot on goal was registered to Bradley Wright Phillips. 1 shot on target the entire time.
The Red Bulls have had a very defined way to play for 4 or 5 years now. They're trying to either add something to it or change it. I don't think they're trying to necessarily change it, because that would go against the way Red Bull soccer as a whole operates. All their teams play in a similar fashion. So if you're trying to add a possession component to a pressing team, I'm with Bobby Warshaw on it. That's asking players to be able to flip a switch in their brain between being calm and composed and being 100 miles an hour and speeding the game up. That's really difficult to do. That's difficult for the best teams in the world to do. There's a difference, and I think people get a little mixed up in this. Do you see a Barcelona under Pep Guardiola? Because this is where the stuff started to really come to the fore. Did Barcelona press? Not in a traditional way. When they lost possession in the attacking half, did they immediately try to press to win it back? Absolutely. That's not a press, though. What New York did before you look at those stats, you look at those possession numbers from the Chicago game. What was it, 64-36, something like that?
Yeah, 64-36.
So in the past, it would have been flipped. Red Bulls would have had the 36 and been completely happy with it. It's hard. You can't really press when you have the ball. You can't press in the way the Red Bulls have. So they didn't want the ball. They had problems when teams would do that back to them and say, no, you take it and you do something with it. So they're trying to fix that issue. I get the idea, but you can't do both really effectively. They didn't press in a counter-pressing way. They pressed in we're going to play the ball over the top, and if Alex Muil or Daniel Royer or Bradley Wright Phillips runs onto it and goes in on goal, cool. If they don't, then we're going to press up there. If it goes out for a goal kick, we're going to press and make it difficult for the other team to play short. If it goes out for a throw, we're going to box them in and make it difficult for them to play. It's very hard to do both. And I don't know if the Red Bulls have the players to do that. So I think they're going to have to make some tough decisions. Can you get back to where you were? Can you do what's worked for you for 4 or 5 years without Tyler Adams? Can you readjust the press a little bit to get the most out of the group you have? Or can you change your DNA and be more of a possession team? If you're going to do that, I think you have to get more out of your number 10. And I just don't know if Kaku, I don't know if his head's there. That's the biggest concern for me if they try to be a possession team.
Yeah, and how long have we been talking about Kaku not being happy or wanting to get out of the folks in Harrison, New Jersey? How long have we been talking about this?
Since really the season ended.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you're at. All right, let's move on to the next one because I don't think we're going to solve the Red Bulls' problems right now. The New England-Minnesota game we've talked about. It was sloppy. It was frantic. It was weird. New England gets goals from 2 defenders. They win 2-1. I wouldn't say they were great. Minnesota wasn't good enough. It's one of those games that kind of happens at this stage of the season. Let's move into Kansas City and Montreal. 7-1. Hey. What in the world is going on with the Impact? Because they have not been bad this season.
I mean, do you sit there and just chalk it up to a clunker and burn the tape and, throw it out the door? I mean, first and foremost, and there was somebody that a lot of folks like to have on their fantasy teams who was not even in the lineup.
Yeah, he's been injured. So, I mean, that's why he wasn't in the lineup. There was concern he wouldn't be available for this, but you can't be a one-man team. You can't put it all down to that. Montreal's been pretty decent this season, and they haven't played at home yet. They'll be at home on the 13th. That will be a help. 2 wins in their first 4. It's not bad. That's what's weird about this one is I would not have expected a loss of this magnitude. Can you shake it off and just say, hey, it happens? We'll see. We'll see if Remy Gard can flip that mindset. Christian Nemeth comes through in a huge way for Kansas City. If they get performances like this from Nemeth on a regular basis, watch out. Johnny Russell's Johnny Russell. We know what he's capable of. You get a goal from Gutierrez. You get a goal from Gianluca Busio as well. Kansas City, they needed this type of confidence going into a trip to Monterrey on Thursday in CONCACAF Champions League. Really fascinated by that one. We'll see how they do down at Monterrey. They've had more games to under their belts than Atlanta did when they went to BBVA Bancomer. We'll see if Kansas City can do better than Atlanta did. I think they can. I think they should. Don't know about a win in Monterey. That's a gigantic ask, but just like we said with Atlanta, if you get 1-0 loss out of there, you get a draw out of there, you're feeling pretty good. You get a goal there, you're feeling really good.
Just don't go down 2 goals or 3 goals or anything like that. 1 goal loss, draw, get the road goal, you're in good shape there. And I cannot wait to see how Sporting shows up in Monterey later this week. I'm looking forward to this one just to see if they can take the momentum from the match against Montreal and play it forward. And I want to see how well they can do that in a place that you got to sample and you know what it's like to be in that building. So I'm looking forward to it.
We'll finish this segment with LAFC and San Jose. I do agree with Trains. LAFC is a really fun team to watch, and their match with DC this weekend on Big Boy Fox will be a big one. That'll be a huge one to see. Top team in the East, top team in the West right now. Who is the best team in MLS a month in? Vela with a hat trick. San Jose is just bad. We knew they would be bad. Maybe not this bad, but they're bad. Don't see it getting any better anytime soon, to be perfectly honest. They just don't have talent. It's a bad roster.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as much as that. So now the question is for Matias Almeida, who has a clear plan on how he wants his team to play. We've seen it before with Chivas. You know what the blueprint is. Does he have the talent to be able to execute it? Can you start to see some progress? And if you can't, and you haven't so far, do you have to make some concessions and say, you know what, we can't do this. We can't do what I'm trying to do. Either the players aren't getting it or we don't have the talent to execute it. What can we do to stop the bleeding? That's a tough decision to make for a guy like Almeida who, has had a lot of success. And I wonder if he's going to stay stubborn and say, you know what, we're going to do this, and I know that I'm not going to be fired for it, and we're going to make this team play the way that I want. Or is he going to say, you know what, I need to get some results. I need to get some confidence here with this group. So let's keep it simple. Let's, maybe sit back a little bit more, just play a little more of a 4-5-1 or a 5-4-1 and just try to grind out a result. It's a tough decision for Almeida right now because he's had a lot of bad results go against him. It's a bad team.
So then let me ask you this question.
Okay.
So when Almeida says it's a 4-year plan,
mm-hmm.
What's wrong with him saying it's a 4-year plan?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it if he has 4 years to do it. And I don't think the Earthquakes are going to move on from him quickly. I would hope not. He doesn't have he's got a lot of guys that don't fit this system. I mean, they made some bad signings last year under Michael Stare. They brought some guys in for whatever it was he wanted to do, and they don't fit what's going on. But and I know you're referencing Alexi Lawless's comments at halftime of DC and Orlando, which I thought was kind of strange. I think if you are some clubs in the league, you're not going to get a 4-year plan. Minnesota, I mean, Adrian Heath got a 3-year plan. It's looking like it's paying off so far. San Jose wants a 4-year plan. I wonder what the reaction of that fan base is going to be. And that's who's ultimately going to tell you on if you deserve a 4-year plan or not. If the fans are willing to stand behind Almeida and they see progress, then he gets a 4-year plan. If not, no, you don't get a 4-year plan. Fans stop coming out. Fans get frustrated. There's no progress. No, you're not going to get that 4-year plan. I don't think it's cut and dried. You know what I mean? And I think other clubs, other situations are different. Would the LA Galaxy deal with a 4-year overhaul? Nope.
No.
NYC? Nope. San Jose? Maybe. I don't know yet. Yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know if they're going to be able to deal with that or not. But I remember seeing some people say that, well, he's going to get them into the playoffs. I never thought that. I thought this year was going to be bad. I didn't think it'd be this bad, but I thought it'd be bad. It's got to move up from here, though. Like, it needs to get further down the road than where it is right now. I mean, it's just very vanilla and generic. 6 shots, 2 on target. You gave up 20 shots, and you gave up 10 on target. You've had a lot of bad losses. You've got to figure this out. And they had 52% of the possession. If they're going to be a pressing team all over the field, they don't want the ball that much. So something's not clicking. Something's not right. We'll see if Almeida can fix it. I'm just wondering if he's going to have to simplify things a little bit to get some results first and build some confidence before he goes back full bore into the man-to-man pressing all over the field that we've seen from him. I just don't think he has the horses to do it right now. So let's take a break. Let's come back with more from the weekend that was around MLS. We'll take your Tuesday thoughts as well on Twitter at @SoccerDownHere. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky and Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, April 2nd. Running through the weekend that was in MLS. Philadelphia, Cincinnati. Cincinnati had a chance to set a record for the best ever 5-match start for an expansion team. They did not. Philadelphia with a 2-0 win at Nippert Stadium. They played in rain. I don't think it got nearly as bad as it did in Columbus.
It was bad, but not Columbus bad.
Yeah, it was no bueno. But Marco Fabian, David Accam get the goals. What did you make of this? Is it Cincinnati coming back down to earth? Is it Philadelphia continuing to grow after a couple of good results? Or, was it just a weird game? What did you think?
I'll go with options 2 and 3. I think that you saw with what our hero of Wells Fargo can do to the Philadelphia lineup. Because it's Fabian, and we've so you see that, and then the weirdness of the weather and all that kind of stuff. Once again, I'll take that in column B. I'm not going to include it in column A, but I think that you get to see the difference that one guy can make in a situation like this. And so when you get goals from Fabian and Accam, and we all know what David Accam has been going through recently, and for him to be able to shine like this, for me, I think that it's pretty cool. But Fabian puts in 71, gets a goal on the board. Accam put in 5 minutes less, got a goal on the board. So I think that we're seeing what Philadelphia can be, and it was just a poor night shooting wise for Cincinnati. Only 5 shots overall. And, the possession was 56-44, but once again, only 5 shots on target for Cincinnati. So this might have been a bit of a wake-up call for them too.
A little bit. I think we're seeing what Houston can be too. Big win for them on the road in Colorado, 4-1. Kai Kamara with a penalty in the 81st minute for a consolation goal for the Rapids. Houston's looking pretty good right now. Memo Rodriguez has popped up as a threat. They did get 2 own goals, which is kind of crazy. Albert Ellis gets on the board for the Dynamo. I do think if the Dynamo stay healthy that they can be a top team in the Western Conference. I think they have that kind of talent. Now the question is going to be the summer. There was interest from European clubs in Albert Ellis. Houston kept him. Maybe because they wanted to see how the Miguel Almiron transfer played out. Maybe because they wanted to keep him for CONCACAF Champions League. If the right offer comes along this summer, does Houston have to sell, or can they keep him and see what they can get out of this season? I think maybe where they are in the table might have a little bit of a little bit of an influence on that, but I don't know if that even tells the whole story. I don't know if the Dynamo feel like if the offer's right, they just have to sell Ellis and move on.
Yeah, and for me, the first thing I looked at was Houston doing well on the road. And their road form last year was nothing short of hideous. But, getting a goal from Memo in 45 and then having him come on and Hairston comes on in the second half. For me, I like what you get to see from Memo and then Elise. And to your point, I think that it's going to be one of those trade deadline things that we see in other sports. Are you a buyer or are you a seller? And if Houston is right there, then I don't see them selling Elise and trying to get something out of it, because then you're shooting yourself above the foot trying to get something done in the Western Conference. So I think,
don't know. I'm not sure of that, because you're going to get more money in the summer, and this is where MLS teams are in a really difficult spot. You're always going to get more money for a player like Albert Ellis in the summer than you would in the winter, flat out. So you're going to have these tough decisions. If the number's right, and let's say for an Albert Ellis, let's say a European club comes in to offer $10 million, $12 million. It's going to be hard to turn that down.
I was going to say, you can't turn something like that down if it's that good.
It's going to be really hard to turn that down. Maybe you can try to work out a deal, take slightly less, and keep him for 6 months on a loan, and he goes at the end of the season. Maybe, depending on the club you're dealing with. I think that'd be what the Dynamo would be shooting for. But, yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest decision of their season. I think there will be interest, and I think they're going to have a really difficult dilemma when they get there this summer when the transfer window opens up. Another team that went on the road and did very well was FC Dallas, the young squad. And this was the battle of #PlayYourKids. Dallas passed in Pomacall with 2 goals. They get one in the first minute from Carlos Guerrezo, and they win 4-2 in Salt Lake. Pomacall was the subject of that article in Spain comparing him to Frankie de Jong, and everybody's like, really? What? Well, he's playing like it right now. Pomacall's been outstanding for Dallas in the early going.
And for the record, I did not play this past weekend.
No, you did not play for Dallas this past weekend. You're, a second-round draft pick? Or did you get in the first round?
I think, wasn't I number 10 overall?
Oh, yeah, you were first round. Sorry, I'm trying to diminish your drafting. But that's the wrong spelling of John, though, so it's not really you.
Yeah, I know. Yes. Since they decided to add an H, that's 99% of the world does with me anyway. But
yeah.
And I did not have Paxton Pomacall on my fantasy team last week. I do have him on the fantasy team this week.
There you go. That's a good adjustment after the performances he's had so far.
He scores. That's usually the way it works. Hey, he scores 9 goals in 7 matches, and you put him in, and he goes on a goalless drought for 8. And you're sitting there going, okay, when's it going to turn? You hang on to him. But no, I like what I'm seeing so far out of Luchi Gonzalez, and I know that they're looking at also, and a bit of a tease for later, looking at what's going on in League One with North Texas, and Ricardo Pepe had a big weekend up against Chattanooga Red Wolves. So the kids are doing things on a bunch of different levels. Ja'Cory Hayes comes in, and he puts in 25 as well. But getting stuff from Gruezo, Ferreira, and Pomacall, I think, is It's good stuff so far, but I'm waiting for that moment, and I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. But that moment when those kids hit that wall, and I want to see how Luchi Gonzalez manages the wall, and I want to see how he manages the kids as he's getting to that point, or if he thinks he's getting there, and how they push through it when it comes to life in the West.
I don't think the wall is as big of a deal with soccer because you play year-round. I mean, at the youth level, you're playing so much. I don't think it's the wall exactly as it is how do you handle the pressure as you get later in the year when the games become a little more meaningful and you have a big game for positioning in a playoff picture, or you have a cup game or what have you. Those are the ones where you see, okay, does the young player have the composure to deal with this? And that's where I think they get tested, when they get into some big moments. And one of those big moments could be here in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in a few weeks when they come to town in front of a big crowd. And we'll see where Atlanta United is. I think even with a win against New England, Atlanta will be in a fairly desperate situation in those two games at home against Colorado and Dallas. And there's going to be a different vibe in the building that day than I think Dallas has seen this season. How do the young players handle it? That's going to be the question. We'll finish up with really not much to say about a scoreless draw in Vancouver. Whitecaps get a point at home. I don't know if that's really enough at this point, but Seattle continues to stay unbeaten. Really not a whole lot in this game.
No, it was a grinder, and it was my SDH after dark viewing was that one, and bouncing back and forth.
So you slept well, is what you're telling me, basically.
Oh, yeah. It was drifting off. And going back to RSL in Dallas real quick before we go to break, I'd like to thank our favorite Bond villain, Damir Kreilach, for giving me a negative result in fantasy for going 17 minutes and getting a red card.
That's impressive. I mean, if you're going to do it big.
Negative points from Damir Kreilach. Negative points. Thanks.
Dig it. All right, we're going to take our final break of hour number one. We'll come back and talk about Sunday's MLS matches, and we'll look ahead to USL and NWSL in hour number two. We'll get into your Tuesday thoughts as well. Share them with us on Twitter at @SoccerDownHere. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Final segment, hour number one, looking back at the weekend from MLS. We're up to Sunday. Orlando lost 2-1 to DC United. They did score on DC United for the first time this season, but DC looked to be the better team in Central Florida on the weekend.
So let me ask you this.
Okay.
There are 2 points from this one that are stuck in people's craws.
Okay.
And an hour later, Orlando's Blair Witch video still is not funny.
No.
Should the foul have been called by Dwyer on Rooney? And
Yes.
should the goal have stood on the kick?
Yes. The goal standing was more of a discussion than the foul. I don't know why so many people who have been involved in this game for so long were wrong on this. You don't get diplomatic immunity for having bad aim. Like, Dwyer goes in, foot raised, studs exposed, at Rooney's knee. So, according to the people who think that this wasn't a foul, Wayne Rooney should stand there, get straight-legged, studs up on the knee to deserve the foul, and potentially get injured. He's just got to stand there and take the hit. Or you avoid the hit when it's obviously a very dangerous play from Dwyer, and then you get the free kick. Why do you get immunity for having bad aim? So let's take it to a ridiculous next step. If Dom Dwyer had walked up to Wayne Rooney and threw a punch at him and missed, does he get off the hook? No. He shouldn't. If people think that he should, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's a foul. It's a foul, and it's a free kick. Now, the contact in the box on that ball from Rooney, I thought the ball was in the net by the time there was contact. If it wasn't, it was right on it. It didn't affect the goalkeeper making a play on it. There was no involvement in that. If you're going to call things that tight in the box, you're never going to have a free kick or a corner that won't result in a foul. I thought it was a good goal.
I thought the ball had already passed both Rowe and Briant by the time that contact had been made.
I did too. Finish up real quick, and if you guys have questions on any of these, throw them at us on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. The Galaxy won the nightcap 2-1. 2 penalties from Zlatan are the difference here. He had a ridiculous flick that almost found the back of the net. That would have been a contender for goal of the week. A lot of goals this weekend, a lot of good goals this weekend. Galaxy Zlatan, I mean, he said his knee's feeling better. He's going to play on turf this year if he continues to feel this way. If he can keep his Achilles together, we'll see what kind of season the Galaxy can have. And I was not surprised to see that the first penalty was off of a foul from Claude Dielna. Just saying. I just don't get it. Anyway.
Dielna was so bad.
He's always been that way. I don't understand it. Don't understand how he came into the league in the first place, and then now how another team has picked him up thinking that he would be a savior for them. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back for hour number 2. We'll look around the USL Championship, and we'll look at USL League One specifically. John was on hand in Statesboro for Tormenta's USL League One debut, and we'll get a man-on-the-street perspective from Irk Russell Park in Statesboro, Georgia. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. 888-848-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, April 2nd edition. Let's talk USL League One. The league kicked off over the weekend, and the inaugural match was down the road in Statesboro, Georgia. South Georgia Tormenta with a 1-0 win over the Greenville Triumph in front of a sold-out Irk Russell Park. John, you were there for a few days. You saw the groundbreaking of the new stadium. You saw the match. What'd you think of the whole deal?
Well, for those who haven't had the chance to listen, our SDH on location is on the app. So if you want to hear from a couple of players, Darren Van Tassel and Chris Lewis of Greenville Triumph, then you can check that out on the SDH app available for iOS and Android. Plug over. It was cool to be a piece of history. And as I look over my left shoulder here in Office HD, I have my inaugural home opener scarf that is hanging from the stacks. And there was no way that I wasn't going to leave without one of those for a double negative. But to see Statesboro show out for that, yes, students could get in for $1. And then they could order normal food, and then you could do certain other things and be a VIP and all that kind of stuff. But to see 3,500 people, and at one point I got up on a scaffold, which is behind the press box. I want to say probably 25, 30 feet in the air. And to see everyone seated, to see folks, you had supporters come down from Greenville, and they get absolute props from me. You had tailgaters and tent goers from Greenville representing, I think it was the River Riot folks were there. And I thought that was very cool. To have our friends from the front office there, to have the cup there as it had been for the previous couple of days, to have the atmosphere, what it was, to have a hot air balloon drop the ball for the match out of probably about 50 to 60 feet in the air. Just to see something start from absolute zero, knowing how much we've talked about it, knowing how much we've covered it, knowing how much we've had folks on the show to describe all of the steps to get to that particular point. It was cool to see it finally come to fruition in a physical sense. And to see how Statesboro and Tormenta fans were wrapped up into it from absolute beginning. And there were fans who were getting on Triumph players for diving. And so just to see how the fans were reacting and getting into it and understanding its place in history. Greenville's going to be very, very good. And Tormenta, there were a couple of players for Tormenta that are going to get some eyeballs, and that's going to be a step for them going forward. But I cannot give enough high marks to Statesboro for having this first match. And remember, they've got another one tomorrow night because FC Tucson comes to town. They played this past weekend with Orlando City B, and they're staying on this side of the country. So FC Tucson and Tormenta are going at it tomorrow night. 8 o'clock kick, Irk Russell Park. Be there if you're in the area. And it was I can't give it enough high marks for everything that the Van Tassels and the front office were able to do to pull it off and get everything out there and get everything done. So solid first steps, solid first weekend from the teams that played, a lot of action overall, and now it's off and running, and the rest is up to them.
Rest of the action around the league was on Saturday. Richmond, in front of a good crowd at City Stadium, lost 3-2 to Lansing Ignite, one of the expansion teams in the league this season. Another expansion team, Chattanooga Red Wolves, went out to North Texas to face FC Dallas's USL League One affiliate. North Texas with a hat trick from 17-year-old Ricardo Pepi. Kids for real. There's a lot of talent coming through the FC Dallas organization right now, whether it's in USL or in MLS. And then Orlando City B, in their return, they lost 3-1 to Tucson, who's the affiliate of Phoenix Rising. So big first week for USL League One. I think crowds were good. I think the league is pretty happy with the first weekend of matches. As you said, the next week starts tonight or tomorrow night with Statesboro hosting FC Tucson. You're going to get a chance to see a few of the teams that we have not seen just yet on the upcoming weekend. Forward Madison FC comes to Chattanooga to face the Red Wolves. Toronto FC2 goes to Orlando on Friday night to face OCB. I'm excited to see where this goes. So we'll have our next USL League 1 and 10 on Thursday. We'll have a little bit of a recap of the Tormenta match. And we'll look ahead to the weekend. We'll kind of talk about some of the players to keep an eye on, because I think that's going to be the story with USL League One, is the players who are going to get noticed out of this league. That's what I'm looking for. Guys like Josh Phelps and Marco Micheletto from South Georgia Tormenta, for example.
Yeah, and Pepe for me, definitely, after the first weekend. Jackson Popkin, who had, his dad was making the rounds with a shovel, and had Stephen Short and myself.
Again, there was a groundbreaking. He wasn't just walking around with a shovel. There was a little more to it than that.
Yeah, shovel.
Not
from
everybody
said
listens every day,
groundbreaking.
so I just want to make sure.
Shovel from said groundbreaking was making the rounds in the hands of Jackson's father, and he was having dignitaries sign it. And I was humbled enough to be asked to sign said shovel. So. And caught up with Jackson after the match, and Jackson caught up with Stephen Short as well. His thoughts: Tormenta was able to edge out a win based on fighting spirit, but Greenville will be extremely scary once they've played enough games to iron out their team. Chattanooga's defense was surprisingly leaky at the same time Ricardo Pepi showed his potential as an FC Dallas homegrown. Orlando City B was Orlando City B. So that's Jackson's thoughts on the opening weekend. And not far off, but I want to see what Full Mingo looks like. And that was from the groundbreaking and from the match itself. All of that content that we got last week, it's on the app and however you access us. So it was good to be down there for the better part of 4 days and see something come to life.
You want to see what looks like?
What?
You said Full Mingo?
Full Mingo.
Full Mingo? What is that?
That is the Forward Madison slang for going full flamingo. Because you know how the flamingo is like their officially unofficial mascot, and so by going full Mingo, showing full support for Forward Madison, you're going full Mingo.
Okay, I didn't know that inside
That's
joke.
them. Yeah, that's them. If you look on Forward Madison's account and you see full Mingo, that's what. You're going full Mingo, brother.
I hope they're able to explain these things to people, because if you're on the outside and you're wanting to go to a Forward Madison game because you want to go see a soccer match in Madison, Wisconsin, and you don't know all the insider terminology, you might be a little confused.
Forward Madison annotated. That will be right after Nelson annotated in the secret 6th hour of Soccer Down Here.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's look at USL Championship real quick. Had a question on Twitter from John Roper, planning to go to watch the Twos for the first time this weekend. Recommendations about how early to get there and fun stuff to do when I get there. There's a lot of stuff around the stadium, just depending on how early you want to get up there. So Saturday night, I wouldn't expect traffic would be crazy. Are the Braves in town Saturday? I believe they are.
I
believe they are. So that might affect your travel plans. We'll figure out the first pitch at SunTrust Park, because depending on where you're coming from, and John might be coming from the north of Kennesaw. If you are, then great, you're good to go. Otherwise, you might have to make some adjustments to your schedule. The twos matches are fun because it's more stripped down. I mean, you're going to be very close to the field. You're going to be able to see, I think, a little more in terms of the build-up, and it feels a little closer. Everything feels a little more, personal, I think is the best way to look at it.
Yeah, the way that everything is laid out at Fifth Third, and yes, times are simultaneous, by the way, on Saturday. First pitch against the Marlins is 7:20 at soon to be something akin to BB&T Park after the merger. So 7:20 first pitch at current SunTrust Park, and we are 7:30 or 7?
7:30.
Okay, so we're 7:30. So
plan accordingly.
Choose wisely. Yes, choose wisely, plan accordingly. And like we said in the first hour, I know we'll be getting into this as the week goes along. But, yeah, looking forward to seeing St. Louis FC, see how you can go against the top dog. And it is more intimate at Fifth Third. And, it can get very loud, as we have been part and parcel to this season. So it's fun. It's more intimate. It's cozier. And you're up close and more personal with what you're seeing with the second wave of what's going on with the Stripes.
St. Louis is the top team in the Eastern Conference, undefeated on the season, 3-0-1. They've only conceded 2 goals in 4 matches. They're not scoring a lot. Really not scoring much at all. It was a 1-0 win over Charlotte on the weekend. It was 1-1 with Tampa, 1-0 in Nashville, and a 2-1 over Indy. So they're going to be a tough team to break down, and that's where you're going to have some questions about what Atlanta's lineup looks like. Atlanta right now is in a playoff spot. They're in 8th in the Eastern Conference, 1-1-1 on the young season. This is a good test for them Saturday night. You look around the rest of the East, Tampa Bay Rowdies with back-to-back draws, scoreless draw against Loudoun United, a little surprising for them. They're in second at the moment. 2 teams on 7 points, 3rd and 4th place, North Carolina FC and the New York Red Bulls 2. Charleston held North Carolina to a draw, and it would have been a win for the Battery if not for a pretty much last kick of the game goal from Tommy McCabe, who's on loan from FC Cincinnati. Left-footed volley from about 20 yards out. Unbelievable goal for North Carolina to rescue a point. Red Bulls beat Memphis on the weekend. Indy 11 and Louisville City are on 6 points. Lou City with a surprising loss to Birmingham Legion on Sunday morning. That was the game that got postponed due to the weather front that affected Atlanta United, that affected Cincinnati. Louisville City decided to postpone the match. They do play on a baseball field. There is more of an issue with water on that field. So they held it back to Sunday morning, and they lost to Birmingham. Birmingham's first ever win. Charleston's on 5 points. They had the draw against North Carolina. They have not lost in the season yet either. They're 1-0-2. Atlanta, Nashville, Ottawa, Bethlehem Steel, Memphis, all on 4 points. It's a pretty crowded Eastern Conference. Out west, Tulsa's in the top spot, which is a bit of a surprise based off how they've played in previous years. Tulsa looks to be back in full form. 2-1 win over Rio Grande Valley on the weekend. New Mexico United, my USL Championship After Dark choice, they are still undefeated, 2-0-3. They had a big win on the weekend, 2-1 over Tacoma Defiance. The Defiance played last night, and they got their first win in 4 games over Sacramento. They had some help in that one. They had a lot of first-team guys from the Sounders play in that. Will Bruin had a goal and an assist. Alex Roldan, Roman Torres started. They had a lot of veterans play in that match for Tacoma, and they get the 2-1 win on the night. Portland, Colorado Springs, Sacramento, OKC Energy, all on 7 points in the Western Conference. On 6, it's LA Galaxy 2, Tacoma, Reno 1868. Then on 5, Real Monarchs are in the final playoff spot. Fresno and El Paso are just on the outside looking in. USL Championship, I think every weekend pretty much for the rest of the year is going to be a busy weekend. There's just so many teams and so many matches. The Atlanta-St. Louis one on Saturday is one of the biggest games of the weekend. And pretty cool to see the twos involved in a game with that kind of magnitude. I don't think we've really had one of those with Atlanta United 2 yet.
No, and when you look at what Atlanta United 2 is developing, we saw what Jackson Conway did this past weekend. For those of you that check the Twitters, and you get to see these players working their way up and working their way through, and to see a John Gallagher, for me, and I'm sure you would agree here, I think he's ready for some MLS time. And especially with what's going on at right back, I want to see what John Gallagher can do at the next level. It's for everyone who is coming up through the system to see where they are to get to that next step, or it's for the guys who've come in, whether it's from college or wherever, who want to get to MLS to figure out, okay, what do I need to work on and who do I need to be to get to that next level? And for this assemblage of folks coming in from different directions to have a match this important this early in season number 2, like I said, I think it's going to be a good bellwether to figure out where the guys think they are individually and where Stephen Glass thinks the team is this early in the year.
Probably the biggest game out west this weekend is LA Galaxy 2 hosting Tulsa. We'll see if the Roughnecks are for real. One of the greatest names in American soccer, the Tulsa Roughnecks. Fully on board with that. And it does have some old heritage to the old North American Soccer League days. Glad they were able to get that name and continue. And glad to see Tulsa playing well. They've been a really good market for soccer over the years. They were one of the surprises of the old North American Soccer League in a market that no one expected to be successful for soccer. And glad to see the product getting better, because that's a big part of it. You can do all the great marketing and all that, but if the product's not good, people are not going to come out. And Tulsa, I think, now has found that quality on the field again after a couple of down years.
Yeah, and you look at El Paso and what we've seen with them so far, with folks showing up. You look at what we've seen really in New Mexico with what New Mexico United has been able to do at Isotopes Park. And I know that you're seeing teams playing in baseball stadia, but I think that when you're having fans show up like they do for Memphis 901 at AutoZone, and how fans are showing out and supporting in these new markets, I think that it's really cool for the USL, and especially when you have teams, like an OKC and a Tulsa, who have been good markets and have just been on rough times, and now they're 1-6 right now in the West. I think that it's cool to have renaissances and to poke your head back up to sit there and say, okay, here's what we can do if we can put a good product out there on the pitch. And then you have people in the stands who aren't just going there because it's the new thing in town.
Yeah, and don't forget, this is for John Roper's coming to the Twos match and anybody else coming out. Don't forget that it's 90s night as well.
Oh,
at
yeah.
Fifth Third Bank Stadium. So if you hear any extra references on the broadcast to Zach Morris or Brandon Walsh,
Zach Attack.
Yeah, if there's Beverly Hills 90210 references or Saved by the Bell references, it's because it's 90s night. I apologize in advance.
Yes. Oh, come on. Why do you want to apologize for doing stuff like that?
They might be cheesy. That's why I'm going to apologize.
No need to apologize taking 90s night into account. No
there
reason
could be
at all.
Chumbawamba references. It could be bad.
Well, so what? If there's a foul, you sit there and you say you get knocked down, you get back up again? I mean, I understand that. That's easy.
No, I'm not singing.
No, I didn't say you had to sing. I'm just saying if you deadpan the reference, there's a foul. Gallagher gets knocked down. He gets back up again. That's all. That's all you have to do.
No, but that's too generic. That doesn't work. I might have to see what 90s lyrics I can pull that would be
just
suitable,
go 90s REM.
But, well, not everybody's on that. There's plenty of 90s pop that has to be hit too. So I will. I'll see if I can come up with some lyrics that could fit and not be like too easy. Like, I mean, he gets back up again. Like, yeah, I could say that anytime, but something that would be a 90s lyric reference that can be worked.
If you do
into
it
the
in the
broadcast.
rhythm of the beat of the tune, Gallagher, he gets knocked down.
No, I'm not going to say he gets knocked down. He gets back up again. I'm not going to say it like that. That's ridiculous.
That's how you do it. That's how you get through the reference.
That's ridiculous. All right, we might have to have a graphic that says 90s night up the whole time so people understand.
No doubt.
This. Good grief.
And
right.
Jarrett has, before we go to break, Jarrett has chimed in on this, by the way.
Oh, no.
He says, nothing to apologize for with 90s night. 80s night? There you'd owe us a lot.
Jarrett, I hope when you're going to be on the call for a game, which will happen here in the very near future, that it's 80s night for you. And I hope that you have to reference every 80s pop culture reference imaginable, especially musical ones, since you love 80s music so much.
Oh, see, that if they went backwards and had an 80s night and Jarrett was in the booth, or you know me, even if I was in the booth, your head would explode.
No, I can go into 80s stuff. I don't have a problem with that. Now you pull references that nobody has a clue what you're talking about sometimes. So I can't help you with that, whether it's 80s or 70s or whatever.
As a child of black and white television, yes, that's what I do.
Yeah, I can't help you with that one, but this is going to be interesting. So if you have any lyrical suggestions for lyrics that could actually
we'll just drop
fit
right into the broadcast,
into a soccer broadcast.
We'll have a master list going into the booth. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, go ahead and throw them at us on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. I just opened up a can of worms. We're going to take a break. I'll be right back.
Bigger than a can.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here. Tuesday Thoughts. Let's get to your thoughts on the Twitters at Soccer Down Here. What do we have, John?
Shiva just wanted to know about why Parky and Jeff were left out of the lineup.
Parkhurst was sick last week. I know he didn't train on Thursday. I don't know if he trained Friday. But when you're not training on Thursday, there's a pretty good chance you're not going to play on the weekend. He was in the 18, but not in the starting lineup. Lorenowitz has not been a first-choice player this season. I guess the two things from a bigger picture perspective, and we talked about it with going to four in the back, one of Robinson, LGP, or Parkhurst is going to be left out unless you're going to do something like what the U.S. men's national team has done with an outside back pinching in either as an extra center back or as, moving into the midfield or something, because that's the only way you get LGP maybe as a left back in a four, but he pinches in because you're not really having him go forward much. It's going to be the right back who goes forward a lot. It's lopsided. Otherwise, you're playing two of the three center backs that have played most of the season. Somebody's going to be left out. And then with Lorenowitz, in this one, you played three central midfielders with Remedi, Nagbe, and Gressel and or Barco, depending on how the shape was working out. Who are you going to pull out there? The question would be maybe Remedi. And in that role, Eric Remedi as a solo six he had some issues with it. He was getting disconnected from his back line. That's something that we've seen Jeff Larinowitz do in the years he's been here. He's been very good in that kind of role. However, in the minutes he's played this season, he's looked a little shaky at times. He's looked a little slow in possession. He's been caught in possession more than I've ever remembered. So those are tough decisions that Frank DeBoer is going to have to make on two veteran players who have been a big part of this team so far, but are going to have to continue to protect their spots. And it's not going to be easy with the lineup choices going forward.
Michael Head, for his Tuesday thoughts. Atlanta United's at the bottom of the league. Auburn's in the Final Four. What's up is down and down is up. War Eagle. And as the boss would say, Michael, in return, War Eagle.
Yes, it's very strange. What is Auburn doing in the Final Four? How did this happen? Who allowed this?
They defeated Kentucky, sir.
Well, I know that, but what in the world is Auburn doing playing basketball at a high level?
Hey, when you've got 3-point shooters from the state of Georgia and they don't miss, including 17, I want to say, in the Elite Eight game, which I think is I know it's a team record for postseason competition, but yeah, 17 threes in one game in the Elite Eight. So, yeah, when you have guys from Pebblebrook, Tucker, Worth County. I think at least 4 or 5 of their guys are, and Chuma Okiki from Westlake, who suffered a nasty injury and will have to have reconstruction for, I think, an ACL. But yeah, when you've got 5 guys on your roster from the state of Georgia, this is what happens.
Yeah, there's that. Come on. Well, Tom Crean's got somebody coming big time next year, so we'll see.
And all right, so I'm going to address this, but I'm not going to get into it because it's more of a question.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been infiltrated by Texas Toast head honcho on Twitter, who is at not Nicolifi. So apparently, the garlic bread warlord now has a doppelganger evil Twitter account.
Who is doing the Nicolifi parody? That's amazing.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. You know, you have tweets that say, "I love poor weather." # Forza Milan.
Okay, this is gonna be fun.
And then I don't drink Red Bull because that's what Interfans drink. # Tuesday Thoughts.
Interfans drink Red Bull?
I was not aware of this. Was not aware.
The real Nicolifi just chimed in.
We
have
okay.
issues. Mauro Icardi's soap opera continues. So now I think he has upset the Ultras. And that's probably not a good thing at all.
No.
I'm going to assume that is very bad. So they have taken the position that, quote, he can no longer be a part of Inter.
Harumph.
Yeah,
I didn't get a harumph out of you, sir.
You might want to get out of town, dude. That's all.
We do have a hot drop coming soon from the Garlic Bread Warlord about soccer over there, so that will be interesting to hear once that comes to the fore, because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Well, he might have to comment on not Nicolifi on Twitter as well.
True, no doubt. The commissioner of the Fantasy League has a question.
Okay.
Perhaps the biggest concern I have is a coach with a defensive pedigree that has a defense giving up soft goals. The frustrations generally expressed are about not creating chances in the attack. The attack needs to gel, but defensive issues must be tied to FTB's influence.
The attack is gelling. I'm feeling much better about the attack even after the quagmire in Columbus. I think you created chances. You looked good going forward until the field became unplayable. So I'll take that as a positive. It's not exactly, and that's what's so weird about the goals they've conceded. So, I mean, let's work backwards. The second one in Columbus, you had, I thought, mistakes from Escobar, Robinson, and Gressel that all led to the opportunity for Robinho down the line and the cross in. And then Zardes just lost LGP. I mean, that's just good work in the 18. I'm not. Like, LGP needs to do better there, but those things do happen. We've seen Joseph lose center backs in the 18 a lot of times with that same type of move. It was more in the build-up that I had an issue. First goal, a lot of it's on Gressel and not just being responsible defensively on 2 different occasions in that sequence, and that'll wipe you out. The goal against Philadelphia, turnover in your defensive half that just gets you exposed, and then you're flat-footed in transition. Then you're going back to the goal against Cincinnati. LGP took the wrong angle on the turn from Kenny Safe, and then he had an open alley to split every defender with a ball, and it's finished off by Lamar. And then you're going back to the Monterey game, and I think we've covered all that. So I don't think the defense is a huge problem. I think you have to take these goals, kind of individually. Responsibility defensively has to be nailed down. Being switched on defensively and not getting caught ball watching is an issue, and it was an issue on the first goal here. And turnovers. I mean, you've had kind of different things in each of these goals. Just tighten it up. I don't think the defense is a huge issue. I think the issue for me this season has been creating chances, and I feel like that's starting to turn. I hope I'm right. I feel like it's starting to turn from what we've seen in the last couple matches.
And speaking of comparisons, the beautiful game at ATL Soccer 929, otherwise known as Jimmy Vance, a.k.a. Snowman, posted the first 15 matches from Seattle last year. Said Seattle last year with 12 points out of the first 15 matches, got the second seed for the playoffs. Atlanta United can bounce back from the slow start, win versus New England, and with back-to-back home matches, the season looks different. Am I right?
100% it does. That's why the New England game is so important, because I don't know if you win the back-to-back home matches if you lose in New England. That's where you're trying to build some momentum, and you can do it with that match on the road against the Revolution, a team you should beat, a team that shouldn't test you in a serious way. That's why that game is so important. But yeah, Seattle, I didn't think there was any way they were they were hosting a home playoff match. I just did not see that happening, and they got a bye, which I would have never guessed last year. So can it happen? Sure. I think in the East this year, Toronto and DC are maybe too good to be caught if you have that bad of a 15-match start. 5 games in, okay, that's a different conversation. But if you're where Seattle was 15 games in, I don't think you're catching Toronto or DC this year. Anybody else? Yeah, it's fair game, because I don't think there's anybody else who's separated themselves. But Toronto and DC, I think, are going to be a good test in the Eastern Conference. We'll see if DC can stay healthy, and we'll see if Toronto can continue to add to what they're doing and continue to build, because they're looking pretty good so far.
And reminder once again, we have post-match coverage over on the OSG Sports side of things. Don't forget to download the OSG Sports app. Our friends at barnburner.ca were there, and you get to hear from Pozuelo, Vanny, Altidore, and Michael Bradley after what happened this past weekend. So don't forget to download the OSG Sports app as well, in addition to the Soccer Down Here app available on both iOS and Android. Promo over.
One of the multitude of Johns with no H, JNAMS on Twitter, ask, how do we get Joseph more involved without pulling him so far back from the attacking third? No shots in the last 2 has me really concerned. I was looking at the overall numbers so far, and what surprised me and what continues to surprise me is, okay, Joseph Martinez hasn't had any shots in the last 2. He's still leading the team in shots per game. More shots per game than he had last year, or 2017, I believe. I'll have to go back and double-check. 2.5 shots per game, according to Who Scored, and those numbers are from Opta. So he's more involved. I think he's taking more shots from distance, for one, something that we haven't seen, because he's dropping more into the play. I've been really happy with Joseph's play. I don't think there's an issue there. Again, the last game you had 16 shots, so it wasn't for a lack of creating shooting opportunities. You were doing that. As a whole, is it better for Joseph to be more involved in the play, dropping deeper and combining? I think it is. I think it really can be. And when you get to that situation where Joseph becomes more well-rounded than just a player who can kill you in the 18, it's going to create space for Pity Martinez. It's going to create space for Julian Gressel or Tito Villalba on the right side, who are the next 2 in shots per game, by the way, both over 2 shots per game. That's really important. So I think Joseph becoming a more well-rounded player is a good thing, not a thing to be concerned about. And I think it's actually leading to more shots for him.
And, so we're getting that kind of stuff. Scott Filer, coming off of what happened yesterday on the show, had a bit of a run agreeing with Santa United, and ends it by saying constructive criticism is one thing, having a negative, complaining, boisterous attitude all week based on the last game played is moronic.
It's part of the game. I mean, it happens everywhere. It's frustrating, sure. And like I said yesterday, what's frustrating to me is not so much being worried, not so much being concerned, not asking questions. All those things are good. It's when you start twisting facts and creating false narratives. That's what I don't like, because that's when you're just confusing people and misleading people. Are there things to be concerned about? Absolutely. You're not scoring as many goals as you used to. How do you fix that? Feels like things are heading in the right direction, and it feels like a move to a 4-3-3, which, for whatever reason, has unlocked more penetration in the final third. It's working. So I think you continue rolling with that. Maybe it is having an extra central midfielder. Maybe that was part of the issue. You weren't getting those runs in behind before, and it was something that I had said specifically that I didn't think it really mattered what formation you were in. If you weren't getting penetration in the final third, it didn't matter. Now you're getting that, and it's coincided with a move to 4 in the back. And if that's the impetus for it, cool. Keep going. But now you're going to have that question if Franco Escobar is injured again. Can you continue to play 4 in the back? You didn't trust anybody to be there before. Do you feel that the risk is worth the reward at this stage? Does Julian Gressel play right back like he did the last 30-plus minutes in Columbus? Kind of hard to read much from that one. He did start the Orlando game last year in Orlando as a right back in a 4-man back line. That's the only start he has in that role. He's played it after substitutions in matches before, but that was the only start he had in that role. Or do you turn to a John Gallagher? I think John Gallagher's been the best player so far for Atlanta United too. He did make the trip to Columbus. He was there with the team. Dion Pereira made the 18 for the first time, but Gallagher was there, so he was probably number 19 on the list. Does he get into that mix? I think if there's an injury to Franco Escobar, you can turn to John Gallagher and get the performance that you need. I feel like we've seen enough of him in that role.
And let's see, what else do we have here on the Twitters? We're starting to get 90s references. So We'll have that for the weekend.
Keep them coming. Let's take a break so you can send more 90s references, more 90s song lyrics that can be worked into a broadcast because, I want my head to explode. It'll be fun. Send them over on Twitter at Soccer Down here. More questions as well right after this.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, April 2nd, Tuesday Thoughts edition of the show, and Joe Bost with the Tuesday Thought of the day so far. I'm just going to read the tweet because this is amazing. Tuesday Thoughts. My mind was befuddled with the full Mingo reference. I thought it was a guy's name or a 60s reference to Daniel Boone TV show Fess Parker. His sidekick was Mingo. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is that real?
Efforting. I'll go to IMDb and check that out.
If Joe out-Johned John with an old school reference that nobody knows about, I'm impressed. Joe Bost wins the day.
But the thing is, I wasn't even alive to see the Daniel Boone 1964 Fess Parker TV series in reruns. I mean, I'm fairly certain they were on Channel 17 at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
I'm sure they were at some point. They were probably in prime time at one point because, Turner just bought whatever he could buy, and I'm sure that was one that he had at one point.
Yep, Ed Ames was Mingo in 72 episodes in the series that lasted 6 seasons.
So there you go, Tormenta fans. If you want to, make fun of full Mingo when Forward
go wear
Madison's
coonskin caps
town,
or something when they come to town.
Daniel Boone reference to his sidekick Mingo.
Ed Ames, singer.
Wow. All the rabbit holes that this show goes down sometimes.
Well, but then there was another character on the show called Cincinnatus.
Nobody remembers the show, so you're not going to pull a second reference out of the show. No, that's not.
Well, no, it's because I'm just going down the list of who was in the show and looking at actors and actresses. Oh, Kurt Russell appeared in 5 episodes.
There you go. All right, there's your claim to fame. Nice one, Joe. I like it. Yes, I will try from now on when John goes completely ridiculous insider or old or something reference, I'm going to try to bring the Paul Harvey segment. There's a reference for you.
Bring it.
With the what was, and you did it better than I did. How was Paul Harvey's thing did?
And now you know the rest of the story.
And that was like something that was on radio in the 80s, 90s?
Oh, well, I mean, now you're going to have me research Paul Harvey.
I know it was in the 80s. I remember it as a kid. It would be like a little random, like in place of a commercial. Not quite a PSA, but...
Well, and then they had the longer versions. They had the ones that would run at like 6:55, and they'd go from 6:55 to 7. If you had a news talk station that did news at that hour. But then during the noon hour, you would have the Paul Harvey commentary literally that could go up to 10 minutes, and they would air it at 12:50, and it would go, and you'd have 2 commercial breaks, and he would do like actual news and trendy stories, and then he would do a rest of the story. So he'd have his own block of 10 minutes if stations wanted to pick that stuff up too.
Nice. Maybe we can create a soccer thing like that. If we're going to, revolutionize radio going forward, we'll rip off Paul Harvey. How about that?
1952 through 2008, the programs reached as many as 24 million people a week, 1,200 radio stations, 400 American Forces network stations, 300 newspapers, Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I remember it very specifically, the rest of the story with Paul Harvey. Remember that as a kid. We have a couple of 90s song references that have been requested. Austin bringing the beef once they hit me, baby, one more time drop. Maybe. I mean, there's ways it could work.
Yes, there are, and I've got one in my head that I'll have to hang on to.
Oh, no. Nathan Pugh, smells like Teen Spirit, just mumble and shout incoherently. The lyrics might be a little difficult to work in there, but if you get a Jackson Conway goal, maybe just something about smells like Teen Spirit might happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that could work.
Yeah,
so
that
Nirvana
could-
references definitely could get in there.
I could make some 90s Cure references as well. If you haven't
Disintegration
seen,
was the greatest album ever.
Well, that was 80s, so you can't make that one. I mean, South Park was in the 90s, but the album was in the 80s, so no, it doesn't work. But if you haven't seen the clip that made the rounds from the weekend, they had the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and The Cure was one of the inductees this year, which was awesome. Trent Reznor gave a just great speech about The Cure. I loved it. But they do the red carpet thing, and if you know the band The Cure, like, they're not a red carpet kind of band at all. And they had the very bubbly interviewer who probably drank 5 Red Bulls in the hour before the show started, and was just incredibly excited and just wired. And Robert Smith comes ambling up there, with the rest of the band, and she's going on, The Cure, it's Robert Smith from The Cure, and they're getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How excited are you guys tonight? And he like deadpanned it. Obviously not as excited as you are. And it was so funny.
Strong.
It was so epic. I mean, I don't think he was trying to be a jerk or anything. It's just that's Robert. That's just how he is. So Robert Smith is a huge soccer fan too, by the way, which you might not expect. But I remember them scheduling their 1994 tour in the United States around the World Cup schedule. So big-time soccer fans, The Cure and Robert Smith. And there's your soccer musical reference for the day.
Let's see. There's another question in the queue from Shiva. Is there such a thing as an MLS Cup hangover?
Yeah, I think there is. Portland Timbers are kind of going through it as well right now. They're not exactly looking great. It happens. I mean, it didn't happen the last couple years because you saw Toronto and Seattle get back to MLS Cup, but Seattle's talked about it. They won the Cup in 2016. They went to the Cup in 2017. They talked about their hot start this year as being a direct result of not having CONCACAF Champions League matches to deal with early in the season. They actually got a little bit of a break when they were knocked out of the playoffs until the season started. So I think there is an MLS Cup hangover, and how quickly you come back out of it is very important. I think there's an even larger hangover when you have the changes Atlanta United's had at manager and at most important player. I think those two things are showing a lot.
And yeah, I mean, to your point about the Portland Timbers, seeing them this past weekend, you just kind of sit there and you go, yee, hope, try to figure yourselves out. I mean, that's, everything that happens. And I mean, you add in international competitions and all of the bells and whistles that go with it that are good, and then all of the bells and whistles that come with it that might, leave you with that negative hangover at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, it definitely does exist.
Yeah, it's out there. Let's take our final break, come back. Any final questions, any final Tuesday thoughts, share them with us on Twitter. We'll talk a little bit about the NWSL preseason as they get closer to the start of opening day. It's a weird season because you're going to have the World Cup break in the middle, and it's going to be a little disjointed because so many of the national team players will be away preparing for the World Cup. We'll get you set for NWSL right after this.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Final segment, Soccer Down here, April 2nd edition. Looking ahead to the NWSL. Couple more weeks before the openers around the league, and you'll be able to watch the league on Yahoo Sports just like you did CONCACAF Champions League this past spring. And again, for Thursday when Sporting Kansas City heads down to Monterey. You're 4 weeks into the preseason, and teams haven't always had their national team players during preseason because you've had the She Believes Cup, you've had other events going on. It's kind of hard to get a gauge of, who to look for this season. I think the one that you're going to start with, obviously, is the North Carolina Courage.
Yep.
With what they did last season, winning the Shield, winning the Cup, winning the ICC as well. They're the team to beat. It's not even close. And they're not going to lose as many players to national team duty as you would expect from a team with that kind of skill. They had a preseason match against Orlando, won 4-0, dominant. They beat South Carolina 2-0 in their next to last preseason scrimmage. I mean, you're getting goals right now from Lynn Williams. You're getting goals from Jess McDonald, who has been called into the national team. So keep an eye on McDonald. North Carolina has one more preseason match against Virginia, and they open hosting Chicago Red Stars on April 13th. Red Stars, not so good. Portland hosted a preseason tournament, the Thorns Invitational. The Red Stars lost all 3 games. So they're going to have to take that and go into the season and go to North Carolina to open. Not a great situation for Chicago, eh?
No, and frankly, I'm just glad that Sky Blue have a place to kind of be their own. I mean, I'm still stewing over the ideas about the Sky Blue and still having to fight through just so they can act more than a half of a franchise in the NWSL. And I want to see what they're up to this year. Chicago's having, exhibition season issues, preseason issues.
Well, let's start with Sky Blue real quick. They've, on top of, not having a lot of things to work with because they're kind of cheap, they've lost 2 players already for the season. Madison Tiernan and Mandy Freeman. Tiernan tore ACL, Freeman tore Achilles. They're going to miss the season. You don't have a deep roster with Sky Blue.
Nope.
So you're already 2 down. You're going to have to find some replacements there, and it looks like another long year in Jersey.
And I want them to succeed. I want the league to succeed. I want more franchises in other cities that can be strongholds for the league. I want the league to be able to take advantage of the fact that you're in a World Cup year. Frankly, they should have taken advantage of the fact that 2018 was leading into a World Cup season, as opposed to sitting here and trying to figure out, okay, how can we take an advantage of being in a World Cup season? So, I still have, sadly, more questions about the growth of the league and the stability of some franchises. You look at what Portland is doing, you look at what Utah is doing, you look at what North Carolina is doing, you look at what the Courage did in the International Challenge Cup, you look at the trouble that they did last year. Those 3 franchises, to me, are the example. And then the on the field product, once again, it's going to, take a back seat to the Women's World Cup. It's going to take that break. Then you have a question of momentum about the league heading into a stop sign and coming out of a stop sign. And I want to see how the league handles it. I want to know how they plan on taking advantage of any momentum. And if the U.S. does not win the World Cup, how they take on that challenge from there as the women's professional league. So for me, there's a lot of teams that have to tackle a lot of things, and there are franchises that can be examples for others, but I still have more questions about the NWSL than I do answers, and I don't like that.
Well, on the field, the other three teams, I think, other than North Carolina to keep an eye on, are Portland, Reign FC, and Utah. So Portland hosted the Thorns Invitational. They didn't win their own tournament. Reign FC did, and you might be wondering, Reign FC, who's that? It's the former Seattle Reign. They're moving to play in Tacoma, so they're going to play in the same place that the Tacoma Defiants are playing, Cheney Stadium in Tacoma. They've added two new minority ownership groups. One is the owner of the Tacoma Rainiers, the baseball team that plays at Cheney Stadium, and Adrian Hanauer, who's a part owner of the Seattle Sounders. So I think it's a really good move for them. I think it's better than where they were at Memorial Stadium. There were some issues there long-term anyway. They are working on a soccer-specific 5,000 capacity stadium that will be the home for the Tacoma Defiants and Reign FC, and that's going to be adjacent to Cheney Stadium, so same basic area in Tacoma. Reign won the tournament. They won the Portland Thorns Invitational. They beat the USU 23s 2-1 in the opener. They beat Chicago 2-1, and they earned a scoreless draw against Portland. That's been a club that they've had to battle, I think, to even kind of keep going at times, and they've put their head down and got it done. And adding these minority owners to it, you have to feel like they're in a pretty good spot going forward. Utah Royals, Kristen Press got a hat trick in their preseason match against USC, college team. They're trying to get Kelly O'Hara back. Injuries have been just, debilitating for Kelly O'Hara. She's probably going to miss the Women's World Cup, although that's not definite yet. If she does, that will help the Utah Royals out because they're going to miss some players to the World Cup. Question for you as we finish up on the NWSL side. So, at LAFC matches, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this when it happened, they have the Falconeer who comes out with the Falcon at Bank of California Stadium. You've seen this, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And they have a celebrity do it. So that's their
it hung out with
spike.
Will Ferrell the other day.
Yeah, that's their golden spike. Kristen Press did it when Real Salt Lake played LAFC. Well, Kristen Press plays for Utah Royals, which is owned by Real Salt Lake. Mm-hmm. Some Utah Royals fans had a problem with that. Some RSL fans had a problem with that. Do you have a problem with that?
I mean, no, because I look at any exposure that the league is getting as exposure, and I think you need it. And if what you can do is attract eyes to a product in a market where you don't have a team and you'd like to have a team because it's the number 2 media market in the country. I mean, in the interim, I'm cool with it.
I wholeheartedly disagree with you, sir.
Okay.
Because I think the thing about women's soccer is that it's always treated like that, in that, okay, just get some attention, whatever. Utah Royals got no attention out of that. The U.S. women's national team did because they're playing a match at Bank of California. So Utah got nothing out of it except watching one of their players. I think she was in an LAFC shirt. I mean, she was representing LAFC to do the thing.
Yeah.
And her, bosses, the owners of the Utah Royals also own Real Salt Lake, and they were playing that night against LAFC. I thought it was a bad look, and I think it's the kind of thing that hurts women's soccer in this country. Look, Utah Royals and RSL, that should be all one. That should be all together. And it goes back to a conversation we had on the Women's Soccer Weekly podcast about the naming conventions. I think it's easier to separate everything when it's a different name, like Utah Royals and Real Salt Lake. Although there is synergy there, still, it feels separate, completely separate.
Yeah.
It was Real Salt Lake women or Real Salt Lake ladies or whatever convention you want to go with, depending on how you look at it, I think it would feel different, and you would never see that happen. But you can think about it as being okay because, they're not the same thing, but they are the same thing. And I think they would benefit if they are treated as the same thing. So I didn't like it. I thought it was diminishing to the Utah Royals and to the relationship with the Royals and Real Salt Lake, and I thought it was a really bad look. I don't think those things help. And again, like, you're not in LA, so like you don't have a team in the league, and unless Kristen Press is going to be the first signing for whatever the LA team will be, then maybe it works out for her. But you're nowhere near that right now, and I thought it was kind of disrespectful to RSL and Utah Royals fans.
Understood.
It's just a weird situation, and I think like somebody's got to say no before it gets to that stage.
Exactly.
Like, somebody's got to be like, no, that's not okay. That's not happening.
Yeah, and so I think that probably something happened or didn't happen. It should have been a discussion in the front office of, okay, she's one of us and she's going out there to do this, and she's wearing an LAFC kit. So no, I completely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I think it's something the NWSL has to get better at. I don't think that would happen. Consistency, just treating it as, all the tribal aspects of being a fan that we see on men's teams, it's the same thing on women's teams. You can't treat it differently. So that should not be allowed, because if you were... the WNBA, you have different team names, but they feel closer in a lot of markets. Although, here you don't really see that with the Dream and the Hawks as, okay, if you had, I don't know, if you had San Antonio come into town, and you had, I'm trying to think of the best example. If you had a men's NBA player do something at a Dream game supporting the opposite team from their city, it would be looked at kind of weird.
Somebody wearing a Hawks player like Trae Young wears a Ginobili jersey to the game where the Silver Stars come to town.
Yeah, something like that, or in San Antonio to kick something off for them. It's weird. It doesn't work. So I didn't like it. We'll see. But there's lots of stories bubbling up with the NWSL as they get closer to their season, and we'll have our NWSL in 10 getting started the week before the opener. Any final Tuesday thoughts we need to hit before we wrap up?
The continual influence of Texas Toast is in there as well.
Watch out for Texas Toast.
Yeah, Texas Toast wants the hot drop to come down, and also wanted to know about soccer on baseball fields. Skullduggery, the beautiful game, should be played on fields lined with delicious, cheesy Texas Toast. Forget Capri Suns and orange slices. Mom, #Tuesday thoughts.
I don't think I could play a good 90 minutes after eating cheesy Texas Toast. I'd be too full.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, is that if you give me Texas Toast with what I order and I end up getting more than the one piece that I know I'm going to get, if you order an extra side of Texas Toast, then I don't finish what I bought in the first place. And for me, that's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, it's definitely a post-match kind of thing, too. I'm not eating it halftime. Sorry, Texas Toast.
Weighs you down. No, it weighs you down. And Jared is also wanting us to get into mentioning grunge on the weekend when we're doing ATL UTD2 and St. Louis FC.
Oh, I can definitely go grunge. I can definitely go some Mudhoney and some Soundgarden, and maybe we can get into some Alice in Chains, Temple the Dog. Yeah, we can drop some references there. We'll have some fun with it.
Okay.
It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yes. So that is the quest for everybody for the remainder of the week, since we're now here in stoppage time.
All right. Well, that's it for stoppage time, because there's a lot of stuff going on today. We're going to have some interviews coming out on the app and on the website. Make sure you've downloaded the Soccer Down Here app on Android or iOS. You can also check out everything on our Spreaker page as well. We're going to have a 1v1 on the women's side coming up. We're going to have the USL Championship in 10 later today. USL League 1 in 10 on Thursday. We don't have a twos review this week because there wasn't anything to review, maybe we'll turn it into a 2's preview on Friday and get you ready for Saturday night and St. Louis FC come into town. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks, everybody, for chiming in on the Twitters. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha grunge, y'all.